I'm about to pull back the curtain on the biggest myths about South Florida's cost of living, weather, and housing that glossy brochures conveniently leave out. As real estate pros right here in the trenches of South Florida, I've seen way too many people make life-altering financial blunders because they were sold a fantasy. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the dose of reality you need to make sure you're not one of them. This isn't clickbait. I'm offering a real deal warning after helping hundreds of families move the smart way. Let's bust the 7 myths you have to understand before you even think about calling South Florida home. I want to debunk the first myth, that all of South Florida is ridiculously expensive. I see people look at a postcard of a waterfront condo in Miami, check the price tag, and immediately write off the entire region as impossible. That is a rookie mistake that could kill your Florida dream before it even gets started. Here's the truth. While the coastal cities will absolutely drain your bank account, incredible affordability is waiting just a short drive inland. When I say short drive, I mean within a couple of hours, sometimes less. Florida is not just beaches and high-rise condos. It is farmland, horse country, lakes, gated communities, new construction neighborhoods, and quiet towns where your dollar stretches dramatically further. Let us actually run the numbers. The median home price for the Miami and Fort Lauderdale coastal area is an intimidating $670,000. Head inland to a community like Ocala, and that median price plummets to around $275,000. Go a little further to Sebring, and you are looking at about $250,000. Now here is what most people do not factor in. It is not just the purchase price. Insurance premiums are typically lower inland. Property taxes can be lower. HOA fees are often more reasonable. You are not competing with as many cash investors from out of state or overseas, driving prices up. Let us put that in terms of your monthly budget. With mortgage, taxes, and Florida's infamous insurance, a family on the coast near Miami could be staring at a $4,100 monthly housing bill. That same family in Ocala could have a payment closer to $1,800. That is a mind-blowing difference of $2,300 every single month. That is over $27,000 a year that stays in your pocket. Think about what $27,000 a year could do for your family. That could be private school tuition. That could be maxing out retirement accounts. That could be family vacations. That could be paying off debt faster. That could be building real wealth instead of just surviving your mortgage payment. And here is the kicker. Many of these inland communities are growing fast. There are new hospitals, new schools, new shopping centers, and new infrastructure. You are not moving to the middle of nowhere. You are moving to areas that are expanding and developing every year. So the idea that South Florida is unaffordable is just plain wrong. It is unaffordable if you only look at the coast, but if you widen your search radius just a little, the math tells a completely different story. You just have to know where to look. And that brings me to the next big lie people tell themselves, that you have to live on the coast to enjoy the real Florida lifestyle. They've got this idea that if they aren't 5 minutes from a beach, they're missing out on everything the Sunshine State is famous for. Honestly, that could not be further from the truth. The secret that tourists don't know is that the inland communities are offering the exact amenities people are moving here for, but at a fraction of the price and with a much more relaxed vibe. Think about it. Private golf clubs, world-class public courses, endless biking trails, and pickleball courts aren't just a coastal thing. We're seeing gorgeous, gated neighborhoods with resort-style pools, A-rated schools, and amazing parks popping up inland, all without the coastal price tag and the never-ending parade of tourists. You get the beautiful Florida afternoons without the traffic jams and sky-high dinner bills. And here's something else nobody talks about. Lifestyle isn't just about proximity to the ocean. It's about space. It's about quiet mornings. It's about being able to park your car without circling the block for 20 minutes. It's about your kids riding their bikes safely in the neighborhood. It's about actually knowing your neighbors, instead of living in a revolving door of short-term rentals. In many inland communities, you're getting larger lots, bigger homes, and actual backyards. You're getting room for a pool, space for a garden, maybe even space to breathe. Meanwhile, on the coast, you might be paying double for half the square footage and sharing walls with 3 different Airbnb units. And even if you want that coastal flavor, cities like Fort Lauderdale, the Venice of America, offer a stunning canal and boating scene that feels a world away from the 24/7 chaos of Miami. The beauty of Florida is that you don't have to live directly on the sand to enjoy the water. Weekend beach days are still an option. Boating, fishing, waterfront dining are all accessible without being your everyday headache. Plus, inland living often means stronger community roots, fewer spring breakers, fewer seasonal crowds, more consistency, more stability. That translates into better schools, less congestion, and a lifestyle that feels sustainable long-term, not just exciting for the first 6 months. The best value, and often the best quality of life, is found where the tourists aren't looking. And the people who figure that out early, they're the ones building equity, building community, and actually enjoying Florida instead of just posting about it. I call this the silent budget killer. The myth that homeowners insurance is just a small, predictable expense. I've seen people get mortgage pre-approval, find their dream house, then get a phone call from the insurance agent that changes everything. My reality check is that Florida homeowners insurance is massive, unpredictable, and often shocking. The difference between a coastal home and an inland one can be astronomical. In many coastal zones, I see insurance and property taxes tack on an extra $600 a month or more. Move inland, and that number can drop to about $200 a month. On a typical home, that gap becomes thousands of dollars every year. It gets worse because insurance isn't just higher, it's volatile. I've watched policies get non-renewed and carriers leave the state. Hurricane deductibles are often separate and much higher than standard deductibles. Some homeowners get pushed into state-backed options that cost more and cover less. For me, it's not just about price, it's about stability and risk. I know hurricanes drove this full-blown insurance crisis. Roof age matters, flood zones matter, wind mitigation inspections matter. The year a home was built matters. I've seen 2 houses on the same street carry wildly different premiums because of those factors. If you don't understand that before you buy, you can walk into a financial surprise you weren't prepared for. I've watched net domestic migration fall from over 314,000 in 2022 to just 64,000 in 2024, nearly an 80% drop, and insurance hikes are a big reason why. People are learning the hard way that the sunshine tax is real. My advice is not to avoid Florida, but to buy smarter in Florida. Buy newer construction inland. Choose homes outside high-risk flood zones. Look for properties with updated roofs and full wind mitigation credits. Those choices can mean the difference between manageable payments and constant financial stress. My bottom line is that insurance in Florida isn't a footnote in your budget. It's a major line item. If you ignore it, it will control your monthly payment more than your interest rate ever will. I want to clear up a huge misunderstanding about who's actually coming to Florida these days. The myth, fed by stories from a couple of years ago, says everyone is flocking here for cheap living and early retirement. I can tell you that story has completely flipped. I see the pandemic-era gold rush is over. I believe Florida's migration pattern has changed, and South Florida, especially Miami, has become a magnet for high-earning professionals. While overall migration into the state has cooled, I see Miami attracting a very specific crowd. These aren't people looking to save a few bucks. They're making strategic career moves. I see Miami rapidly transforming into a global hub for finance, technology, and venture capital. People are chasing careers, not just sunshine. That distinction matters to me. The buyers I see entering the market now often have remote executive salaries. Wall Street bonuses, startup exits, or international capital behind them. They're not stretching to qualify. They're competing aggressively. I see many paying cash and waiving contingencies. They're comfortable with higher price points because their earning power supports it. This is critical to understand because I see the competition for housing and the entire local economy being supercharged by high-wage earners, and that changes the game for everyone. When higher-income buyers flood a market, prices don't just rise. Expectations rise too. I see restaurants become more expensive. I see more luxury developments. I see property taxes climb as values go up. I see the baseline cost of living shift upward. At the same time, I see this economic shift creating opportunity. I see stronger job markets. I see more networking potential. I see more capital flowing into local businesses. I see more infrastructure development. I believe Miami isn't just growing, it's evolving. Whether that works for you depends entirely on your strategy and income level. If you move here thinking it will feel like a low-cost retirement haven from 5 years ago, you'll experience serious sticker shock. If you understand you're entering a competitive, career-driven, globally connected market, you can position yourself accordingly. The people moving to South Florida now aren't chasing discounts. They're chasing upside. If you don't understand that shift, you'll misread the entire market. When I see these new market dynamics and the prices, I understand why people jump to the myth that South Florida is in a massive housing bubble about to burst. Headlines love words like bubble and crash, and I see how that fear freezes many would-be buyers on the sidelines. To me, the reality is not one big ocean, but a collection of different lakes. I see some affordable segments cool, but the high-end market-wealthy professionals are buying into rests on a much stronger foundation. I don't see the wild speculation of the past here. I see today's luxury buyers drawn by strong fundamentals like Florida's zero state income tax, expanding tech and finance employers, and continued job growth in Miami-Dade. For this group, buying here is not a short-term flip, but a long-term wealth strategy. To me, that is a critical difference from 2008. Back then, loose lending, over-leveraged buyers, and speculative flipping created instability. Today, I see buyers who are far more qualified. Many are putting significant cash down. Lending standards are tighter now. Inventory, while improving, is still not oversupplied in many desirable areas. To me, that creates a very different risk profile than a true bubble. Does that mean prices will never adjust? Of course not. Real estate moves in cycles. Some neighborhoods will correct. Some price points will soften. I am already seeing sellers who overreached during the frenzy adjust their expectations. But a market correction is not the same thing as a crash. Cooling is not collapsing. In fact, I see normalization in many parts of South Florida, with more negotiation, fewer bidding wars, and homes sitting slightly longer on the market. For buyers, that is not a warning sign. That is opportunity. It means inspections matter again. It means appraisals matter again. It means strategy matters again. So while I might see prices soften in some areas, intense demand from high-income buyers is creating a surprisingly resilient floor under the market, especially in prime locations. Waterfront property, new construction built to strong storm standards, and homes in established neighborhoods with limited supply continue to hold value because their demand is fundamentally strong. It feels like a tale of two completely different markets unfolding at the same time. The biggest mistake I see is assuming every headline applies equally to every neighborhood, every price point, and every buyer. Understanding which lake I'm stepping into is what separates a smart move from a costly one. I want to kill the myth that you can just rent to try before you buy, and that it's the smarter financial move. People assume renting saves them from the high price of ownership, but I've seen renters get a rude awakening. Renting in South Florida, especially in neighborhoods everyone wants, is brutally expensive. The average one-bedroom rent in Miami is about $2,200 a month. roughly 36% higher than the national average. If I want a trendy spot like Wynwood, I could be looking at $800 to over $3,600 for an apartment. Even in historically more affordable areas like Little Havana, rents can range from $2,200 to $2,800. Most renters don't factor in that rent isn't fixed long-term. Landlords can raise it, leases expire, and buildings get sold. I could move in at $2,400 and be staring at $2,900 12 months later with zero control. There's no cap on how high it can go unless I leave, so the flexibility people love may often turns into instability. When I do the math, my monthly rent on the coast could likely cover mortgage, tax, and insurance for a beautiful inland home. And when I own, part of that payment builds equity. It's forced savings, leverage, and long-term wealth creation. Meanwhile, every rent payment disappears the moment it leaves my account. There is no appreciation, no tax advantages, and no asset growing in the background while I sleep. It's just another year gone. Renting absolutely makes sense for short-term relocation, uncertain job moves, or if I'm strategically waiting for the right property. But renting by default because I assume it's safer or cheaper in South Florida deserves a serious second look. For so many families, I see renting isn't saving money. It's just paying off someone else's investment while they could be building their own. In a market that attracts high-income earners and long-term growth, ownership, when done strategically, can put me on the right side of that momentum instead of watching from the sidelines. Look, figuring out this market isn't simple. The headlines shout one thing, the tourism ads promise another. The reality on the ground is something else entirely. That's exactly why my team and I spend every single day helping people just like you make a smart, informed move to South Florida. We don't just sell houses, we find the right community that fits your life and your budget. Because here's the truth, the wrong move here can be expensive. The right move can change your financial future. And those two outcomes often come down to small details. Insurance zones, school districts, commute times, flood maps, and neighborhood growth patterns. Those aren't things you see in a glossy brochure. That's strategy. If you're even thinking about making a move, whether it's in the next 9 days or 90 days, all of my contact information is right down in the description. Shoot me a text, send an email, give us a call. My team and I are here to be your go-to resource. We'll walk you through the numbers, the neighborhoods, and the pros and cons so you're making a decision based on facts, not hype. Remember, South Florida isn't one size fits all. The financial gap between living on the coast versus slightly inland is enormous. The lifestyle you're dreaming of is absolutely possible, but your money goes so much further when you know where to look. And the whole reason people are moving here has changed. This isn't just a retirement spot anymore. It's a serious career destination. If you approach it casually, you can overpay, overspend, and feel stuck. But if you approach it strategically, you can build equity, upgrade your lifestyle, and position yourself in one of the most dynamic markets in the country. Knowing these truths is the first step toward making a move you won't regret. I hope this gave you the clarity you needed to start planning your move the right way. And when you're ready to take that next step, we'll be here to help you do it smart.